Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Formed in 2016, award-winning Cairo present a unique blend of thought-provoking songwriting with progressive rock and metal updated for the modern age. Their debut album, Say, was met with critical acclaim and earned the band recognition and prestige across the progressive rock community. They are an established live act, having played many shows, including a headline slot at Winter's End and a main stage slot at Cambridge Rock Fest. Their much anticipated second album, Nemesis, is due to be released on May 5th on the QEDG affiliated label Spirit of Unicorn Music. Their new studio album, recorded with John Mitchell at Outhouse Studios, taps into contemporary global concerns and demonstrates the band's impressive genre-defying approach with menacing angular riffs, pop rock hooks, and electronic soundscapes that all beautifully complements powerful and emotive vocals. In this exciting and purposefully eclectic new album, the band venture into familiar Cairo rocks territory with the dynamic moving epics. There are also some exciting departures for the band venturing into more melodic rock areas. There's also a short keys based orchestral instrumental, Save the Earth, which stops a cap to the likes of the sadly recently departed Vangelis and acts as a prologue into the title track. Please welcome composer, songwriter, lyricist, keyboard player, and vocalist for UK progressive rock group Cairo, Rob Cottingham, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Ray. Great to see you. And it's nice to be called a leg end now and again, you know.
Yes.
I got called a veteran the other day, Ray. I'm starting to worry about it now. You know what I mean?
I'm a big fan of prog rock, man. So you guys, to me, are all legends.
Yeah,
And it's a good time for prog rock. Actually, there's a lot of great prog rock music out there, and there's kind of a crossover of prog metal, which is very interesting as well. And I've been interviewing a lot of those guys from all over the world. It's pretty exciting times, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think that the whole point of being progressive is not to stay in the past, but to take it forward,
Right.
but to respect the past while you're doing it. And I think we've managed to do that with this album. We've definitely doffed our cap to some real legends like Yes and Floyd and Genesis. Mm-hmm. And there's certain elements you can probably hear where you think, oh, hold on a minute, that sounds a bit like Floyd or whatever. But at the same time, also taking it forward into sort of, let's say, rockier or heavier or just different territory, And I think that's, in a way, that's what I love about prog rock, is that it shouldn't be stuck in the 70s or the 80s. It should always be moving forward. We should be thinking how to really broaden it and just keep it progressing, keep it rolling forward. So yeah.
And the music is intricate, it's complicated, but it sounds incredible. It's like, some parts are kind of symphonic. And what I like about it, the Brits invented prog. And you guys should be very, very proud of that. I think the first prog album was probably, Sgt. Pepper's? Could have been one of the first.
Yeah. And actually, I'll tell you another bit of prog that people don't often talk about is Elton John. Mm-hmm. If you listen to Funeral for a Friend,
right.
I saw him a few nights ago with my wife up in Liverpool, and they did Funeral for a Friend, which is on the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album.
Yep.
And it was fantastic. They had the smoke billowing over the stage, the organs coming in, and that is classic pure prog, actually. And you sort of think, you know what? Even then, he was making a name for himself, and so it just shows it's not always necessarily the band name or the individual. It's the music itself, and it was fantastic live. I've loved it recorded anyway. To see it live with the massive speakers, it's fantastic, Ray. It was brilliant.
I agree.
So, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving the UK the accolade.
Oh yeah, you guys deserve it.
We'll take it.
Sometimes you guys are too modest. When I talk, I talk to a lot of prog guys, including the legends like Ian Anderson and John Anderson and even Chris Squire I've talked to, and all of ELP.
Yeah.
But, you guys are very modest when I say that. You guys should be jumping up and down and going, we are.
Well, we try to be less modest, but it's just very difficult. It's in our culture, I think. Oh no, please,
Exactly.
let's drink tea instead. Let's not talk about all this kind of stuff. So we're a bit like that, aren't we? But we quite like that trait in ourselves. But I know what you mean. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to big yourself up a little bit. So yeah, yeah.
Well, the other thing you guys did, you brought blues back, with the likes of John Mayall and people
Oh
like
yeah,
that, Fleetwood
yeah,
Mac,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
True enough. Oh,
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say about Nemesis. Okay. You're going to love this. 5 stars. It
wow.
These are the words: haunting, alluring, angelic, seductive, cinematic. Nemesis has all the elements of a melodic masterpiece. And the singer, Sarah Bailey's voice,
Yeah,
enchanting. Oh my God. That was a
yeah,
great addition to the band. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah. Wow. Have you finished, Ray? I was waiting for you to carry on there because I was loving it so much. Keep going. Any more? Keep going.
It's your best album. I've listened to all your
Oh,
music, your solo
have you?
stuff.
Wow. Wow.
This is an incredible album.
Wow.
It's produced well, engineered well.
Yeah.
It's a great album. It really is.
Well, what can I say? But that's fantastic, and thank you very much. I mean, there's been a lot of hard graft behind it, and a lot of
Mhm.
delay, of course, because of the pandemic. Well, that delayed it for about 2 years. I mean,
Right.
some of these songs have been knocking around a little while in a way, so they're very fresh to you and to people that are going to listen to the album. But actually, they've been around a while, and we actually recorded the album back in February and March of last year, believe it or not.
Hmm.
So 22, and it's just taken this long, partly because of the pandemic. You still had the ripple effect of things sort of winding back up again,
Right.
taking the lag, as it were. But the other thing was, without getting political, was what we call Trussonomics in this
Hmm.
country, where decisions were made by the government, which made it difficult for anyone to invest in anything. So what we saw, and I'm talking really across lots of industries, not just music, but was that investment stopped
Hmm.
because there was so much uncertainty about what was going to happen. Anyway, that then sort of got sorted, and off we go again. And I'm really delighted to have Spirit of Unicorn as our label, because coming back to the label, just really delighted to get
Okay.
Spirit of Unicorn on side, because you got Martin Darville who's behind it,
Right.
and he's the man behind QEDG, who are behind Yes, Asia, ELP, etc. So there's fantastic prog pedigree, but they've got other fantastic bands on the label as well, like Inglorious, and we've even got Elton John's guitarist Davey Johnston. He's on
Oh
the
wow.
label, as is Steve Howe with some of his solo stuff. So to be sort of lined up with what I call real legends like that is amazing for us. So we're absolutely delighted. But they love the album, they love the band, and they just got right behind us, which is brilliant. And kind of what we were after, really, because we just felt with this album, it's been nearly 7 years, right? Partly because of the pandemic.
Right.
That wasn't the intention, but it has been now because of the pandemic. But we're now releasing it, as you say, 5th of May. And we just want to get that global exposure out there on the usual platforms, as well as, of course, CDs, etc., etc. So yeah, so far, I mean, the reaction has been great. That reaction's amazing. That's probably one of our first reviews, Ray, actually,
Y-
thinking about it. The album is actually out with a certain Mr. Hackett to give his comments at the moment, because he was the first to listen to Say, actually, and came back with some lovely comments. So we await to hear from Steve.
Oh, he'll
But
love it.
yes,
Yeah.
but no, thank you very much. There's a lot of hard graft behind it, as you know, Ray, a lot of
Hmm.
hard graft behind this stuff. And it's mainly the preparation behind it.
Sure.
But yeah, we're delighted. We think it crosses the sort of the polar regions, as it were, of the sort of hard rock stuff and the epic and cinematic. And I'm glad you used that word, because
Hmm.
I love cinematic sounds, and to hear you say it is really satisfying, right
Hmm.
down to the very intimate, just the voice and the piano, and letting the lyrics speak out more. So we think we've done that. Fingers crossed. We'll find out over time.
You've had some great voices in the past, besides Sarah. So
Yeah,
you've had Rachel Hill, you've had Lisa Driscoll, and
yeah,
they've all been incredible voices.
yeah,
So you've been very lucky with that, finding those
yeah.
great voices. And she's my favorite, I think, so far. you
No,
know.
Sarah's done a brilliant job on the album, and she did a brilliant job in the studio, and yeah, and live as well. She can really sort of kick ass, as it were, with her vocals. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're really pleased with the vocals. But we also like to, we work well together on the backing stuff as well, the harmonies. We think that's really important.
Yep.
I often think BVs are like the poor relation sometimes in recording, but for me, they're one of the most important factors in any recording is the backing vocals, to get those really blended well together and fantastic harmonies. So we think we've done enough. I mean, as ever, it's a bit like any album. You could keep going for months and months and months on everything and
Yeah.
never complete it. It has to
Sure.
be aligned to say, right, it's drawn, it's done,
Exactly.
put it out there. So
Yeah.
but we're
I want
looking
to
forward
mention too, you have an incredible voice too. You've got a
oh,
beautiful voice.
thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I think
Yeah.
probably the most flattering accolade in the past was after the Back Behind the Orchard Tree album was out.
That was a great album.
Thank you very much. And someone
Yeah.
compared to John Wetton, and he's just one of my absolute idols
Me
vocally
too.
in
Me too.
lots of ways. I love the timbre of his voice. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. So I'm not saying I'm like that, but for someone to say it was just brilliant, really nice of them. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Nobody sings Starless like John Wetton.
You said it. You said it. And in fact, Asia by Asia is just one of my,
Right.
it's been out, since 82, I think, and that's still one of my top 10s, if not top 5. I just love that album. It's just brilliant. And in fact, there are even some, I would suggest, some Asia influences in Nemesis. If you listen to the love and the middle bit,
Yeah.
it's a bit Asia-esque, with a bomb,
Sure.
diddly bomb, diddly bomb, diddly bomb, 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 that sort of thing. So yeah.
Exactly. I want to mention Glow. That's an official video that's out now, and
Yeah.
I did see that video. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful track. It really is. Talk
Thank
about
you,
Glow.
Ray.
Talk about Glow a little bit.
Yeah, so Glow is that's our first single, which we released when we announced that the album was coming out. That was a few weeks ago. And the video is by Crystal Spotlight, and they do all the Porcupine Tree stuff, as well as many others who are very famous. And what I discussed it with Miles, who's the main man behind the video, and this song is this, as I say, that the songs are quite eclectic in the album. Some are quite raw and some are quite cynical, and this is a song about hope in a way, and about the human condition, and how just by helping each other out a little bit and sort of acts of kindness towards each other, we can sort of bring some light into people's lives. And so it's not supposed to be grandiose in any way in terms of the theme. It's actually about the fact that the small things we do for other people become the big things later. So it's really all about sort of showing just a little bit more kindness and understanding, which in a way sort of rolls out nicely from the pandemic, where one hopes that with what we all went through,
Right.
of whatever variety of suffering we went through, is that we just kind of just care for each other and are kinder to each other just a little bit more than we used to be. We're very good at just sort of falling back to old ways, I think, as a race, human race. But I think we're just going to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more considerate to everyone, and just think about those that are maybe a bit more vulnerable and less well off, or whatever, and just need a helping hand. It's along those lines, and it's not supposed to be in any way patronizing. It's just about being a bit more considerate to others. So it's a song, unlike some of the other songs in the album. Glow is a song about hope, really, and just thinking of others, and then I hope that by just bringing a bit more, it sounds a bit crass, but just bringing a bit more love into the world in a very sort of low-key way, that we can just make things better all round. So that's kind of where the rainbow things come out as the grey at the start of the song and brings out the rainbow at the end, sort of thing. Yeah, that's the vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're at our best when tragedy strikes. 911, the global, epidemic, things like that. Tornadoes, hurricanes, we all
awful.
band together, but on a normal, everyday, daily routine, it's missing.
Yeah, I think you're right, and in fact, that's what Katrina was about. If you remember, Hurricane Katrina.
That was sad. That was a sad
that was awful, and that was on the Say album, and that was really about, here we go again. It's the poorest and the most vulnerable who suffer from things which, and I don't try and get political here, but which government or leadership should really have anticipated, of something in place, and kind of, and if it's happened once, let's just make sure it doesn't happen again. This sort of thing. So often you hear about lessons learned. Yes, we have lessons learned, and then they don't have the budget later, and then things happen again, and it's a little bit frustrating, really, in
Hmm.
some ways. But yes, I'm with you. You're right, and I was very sorry to hear about what happened over there over the last few days. It's been awful to see the news. It's just
Oh,
been
in
awful.
Mississippi was horrible,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
shocking,
You
shocking.
guys don't you guys don't get bad tornadoes, do you? Like we do.
We get the
Yeah.
odd breeze, the odd gust. No, no, no. We look. We had it. I'll tell you how bad we get it. I was in Liverpool having seen Elton John, and I was walking along the promenade the next day, and we had it so blustery that I almost lost my cap in the. It literally flipped up and went down again. I had to grab it. In fact, no, it went, and I had to run after it. Kind
Tragic.
of. We do get there. I know we do get them now and again, Ray, but
Yeah,
not really that often. We just
right.
seem to be lucky. I'm touching the wood of the piano now. We seem to be lucky that we don't have such extreme weather phenomena. But having said that, of course, they are getting more extreme generally around the world for
True.
various reasons. So
True.
you're right. We don't seem to. We do get a
Mm.
lot of flooding in Cornwall, by the way. They do seem to
Hmm.
suffer from a lot of flooding, which is
Yeah.
awful to see. One of the worst things. So we do get but as you say, it's never quite as horrendous or as epic in a bad way as in the US.
Yeah. It's very
We're lucky. We're
strange.
lucky.
Very
Yeah.
strange.
It's
You mentioned Pink Floyd, David Gilmour type-ish. I heard that in Rogue, because when you
Yeah.
start singing, you sound like David Gilmour. I mean, like Pink Floyd, and then it transitions, to Sarah. I love that the way that the transition of the two
Yeah.
voices in that song. It's a great
Yeah.
track.
Thank you very much. So actually, even John Mitchell,
Hmm.
when I was doing the vocal for that particular song, because I love John's voice, right? I honestly, massive. I don't tell him. I'm a massive fan of his voice, right? I only saw him recently.
Uh-huh.
Just massive fan of his voice because he's got that sort of gravelly tone, which I love, right? But I haven't got that. I'm a bit smooth. But he said to me when I did this, I think I know the line you're talking about. He said, "Oh, you lucky bugger! I wish I could sound like Dave Gilmour." So there you go. I wasn't even trying. He said, "Did it sound like Dave?" There, he says, "Yeah." Oh, I'll take that. Yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah,
Dave's voice. Yeah.
yeah, me
No,
too.
either. But I do like I've always liked since Touchstone the having the male and female vocals. I just
Exactly.
think it's a bit of a USP. I just really
Hmm.
love it that you can have both, either doing their own thing or harmonizing together, duetting, whatever it is. I've always liked that. So no, thanks for that, your kind words on that one. But yeah, thanks. I'll take that as well.
Yeah, you guys complement each other so well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. No, no, and we had a great time recording it as well. A good laugh. So
yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It was lots of fun. Yeah.
Here's something you're going to be surprised about. On The Love, that track sounds like it could be a Disney theme, like from a
Oh,
movie, like a soundtrack for a Disney song. Do you see
wow.
that? Do you hear that at all?
No, Ray. I've got to say, Ray. Yeah. Yeah, that one's well over there outside the park at the moment. I'm just see if I can find it. But in a way, I know what you mean. In a
Hmm.
way, I know what you mean, and I'll give you a bit of background about that one. That one's a bit sad actually, but I'm going to share it with you anyway.
Okay.
That one came out of so my mum passed away on the 19th of November 2020, and I actually lost all sense of wanting to play music. I didn't feel bad about music. I didn't feel anything about music, which was really odd. I normally just want to tinkle on the piano or play on the synths or music software or whatever, but I felt nothing for music. And I think the reason for that was because my mum was my biggest influence.
Right.
And I remember standing just beneath the level of the piano seat. So I was only, what, a couple of foot high, if that,
Hmm.
looking at the fingers playing on the top of the piano and the white and keys being pressed down. And she had a beautiful singing voice. And
Right.
ever since she used to do Fiddler on the Roof and all those, West Side Story and all these
Hmm.
fantastic musicals. Anyway, so her voice has always been there, and she's used to hum a lot as well, just hum
Hmm.
quietly to herself. So she passed away, and I lost the mojo for music in a way, and I
Right.
didn't feel sad or bad about music. I just felt nothing. It was a bit weird.
Yeah.
And then one day I was tinkling around. I did go open the piano up, and I just pressed a few notes,
Hmm.
and this is what came out of that. The notes came out of that, and then I found this poem. Sorry about the long story. I found this poem that my wife had written
Hmm.
for our teenager for her GCSE exams. So those are those
Really?
when they were 16 years old.
Oh,
She didn't
wow.
use the poem. She just used the music. I
Yeah.
found this poem, and this poem was based on three people, losing three people. There's my mum, her father, and her grandmother.
Yeah.
And I then changed it, made it scan, and so it actually goes from her father to her grandmother to my mum at the end. So, and then I made it more generic because otherwise it's a bit too personal and
Hmm.
people don't necessarily sort of get it, as it were.
Yeah.
So that's the story of the love, and it was really fundamentally about the love that is left behind by the people that have passed on, and remembering that and kind of passing that on a bit as well, and respecting it. So, but the bit in the middle where it takes off is also about the strength of those people, and the strength that one should find from the love that you had with those people, if that makes sense. And still have for them, actually, still have for them. So that's the story behind that. But I know what you mean in terms of a Disney theme. So if you've got any contacts, you know, put me in touch. I'll gladly let them use it for a fee, you know.
I am close to Disney World here, about an hour and a half away. So,
Ray, just when you're passing, just drop it in and tell them to make it famous. That's what you're going to do.
you know, I talked to Steve Hackett several times. He's a great guy, but
Brilliant
Trick of the
guy.
Tail was kind of based on Mary Poppins. You know, that whimsical type of thing. He told me that.
Yes. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I
he,
didn't know that.
yeah,
Oh,
he said they were thinking about Disney. So you're in the same
brilliant.
company.
Good company to be in, obviously. Yeah, Steve's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
great guy. You know, I'm going to get very sentimental about the love now that you told me the real story because my mom passed away at about the same time your mom did.
oh, sorry,
So,
Ray. Yeah,
yeah, and I will be thinking of both of our moms now when I hear
yeah, yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's see. She's New Beauty was another awesome track. Love the guitars on that track as well.
yeah.
Uh,
That's a definite doffing of cap to Pink Floyd, as you probably gather.
oh yeah.
And,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think, honestly, James's guitar work on this album
Hmm.
is a step above. I mean, I was speaking to him the other day, and I just, as I've known James, because
Hmm.
he's a younger member of the band, right?
That's
He has
good. That's
hair and
good.
everything. His hair, he's slim and everything.
Yeah.
And his guitar work, I just think, has totally matured
Hmm.
over time. And now that the solos are right up there. I mean, I just think he's an awesome guitarist. And I've said to him, your time will come, because once people pick up on what you're playing,
Right.
be all over him in a good way. You know, I think he's a fantastic guitarist. So no, thanks for raising that.
I want to mention it's James Hards. He's the guitarist.
Yeah,
Paul Stocker's on bass,
yeah,
and Graham Brown is on the drums.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
Is that going to be the touring band as well? Are you going to?
one hopes so.
Yeah.
So Graham, yeah, Graham. I mean, Paul actually was the first to join the band. So I
Hmm.
formed it in February 16, and Paul was the first to join the band, and he's a brilliant bassist. And then Graham joined, I think it was in the August. James was next actually after Paul, and
Right.
then Graham in the August. So far, that's if you like the core of the band, I think. And obviously we've had a few changes of the vocal lineup, but one hopes so is the answer to that one. And we are looking at a UK tour of sorts. We are waiting to hear back from label because they might have something which we could support on, which would be brilliant. But we
Hmm.
wait to hear. We don't know yet, and if not, that's fine because we have a booking agent that can sort something out anyway to the UK tour. So we'll wait to see. But for sure, we want to get out there. We want to let the album be released around, say, 5th of May, which is,
Hmm.
by the way, is my parents' wedding anniversary.
Oh
Um,
wow.
we're just chatting over the label. They said, "What day in May would you like to do it? It has to be a Friday," they said. So I looked. I thought, well, Dad, he left us in 2017, Mum in 2020. I think it'd be nice if it's 5th of May. I said, yeah, sure. So 5th of May it is. And then what we're going to do is just let people get used to the album,
Hmm.
and hopefully, I'm touching wood on the piano again. Hopefully, touring September, October time, when people have had time to get into the album, can enjoy it. As you know, Ray, sometimes you can go to a gig and it's a brand new album, you haven't even
Hmm.
heard it yet, playing new stuff, and it's difficult to enjoy so much.
Sure.
So that's kind of the strategy at the moment. So we'll see what happens on that one.
Well, I'm going to promote the hell out of it here in the U.S.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thank you very much, sir.
It deserves it, man. It
Oh, it's
really
kind of you.
does.
Thank you
It's a
very
great
much.
album. You know, it's a fun track, "Jumping on the Moon." That was different, huh?
Now, do you know what? It was different, and that's the first time that I've ever written anything in a swing rock kind of way. Hey, like that. And it's like, so again, it's the eclectic thing. And I think you
Right.
sometimes need a bit of a break on album where it's a little bit of a jumping up and
Sure.
down, why hey type thing. And actually that song, again, it's a contrast to some of the darker stuff or the more meaningful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really along the lines of, again, it's about hope and dreams. And it's really about a little lad looking out into the sky and looking at the stars and the moon and then seeing the International Space Station whizzing
Mm-hmm.
by
Right.
and wishing one day that he could be up there doing it. And that's kind of like the first two verses. And then the last verse is actually him, he's on the moon looking down at Earth.
Hmm.
And it's really about, don't shatter kids' dreams.
Right.
Let them dream big. Let them be full of hope and aspiration and ambition, and let them dream big. And don't shatter them or don't quash the dreams. Let them dream big, because one day they'll do it. And in fact, I saw a recent thing with Tim Peake, you know, our British astronaut. And to a certain extent, he's a bit of an influence. I read his book, which is called over here called Limitless. And so he started out as a little ginger lad, loving being outdoors, loving sort of throwing planes around, and kind of, you know, look what happened for him.
Mm-hmm.
And even he said that at the end of his event, which is, you know, just, you know, anything's possible.
Exactly.
So don't shatter kids' dreams at
You're
an early age.
absolutely right.
So it's kind of on
Absolutely.
those lines, but it's a real, but it's really aimed at gigs as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I want people to do once we start playing, I want to jump up and down.
Yeah.
Hey, jump up and down, have fun with it if you want. If you can't, just enjoy jiggling around to it. You know, it's that sort of thing.
I think most children set their future in grade school. You know,
Yeah,
like me, I took art. We had art class. I got really into art. We had a teacher that came around with instruments and gave us instruments to play, and so we can learn about music. We had I learned French in elementary school. You can pick a language, and to this day, I can still speak a little French from back then. So it's, you know, you learn a lot just in those first, what, 4 or 5 years
yeah, you
of grade
do.
school. You're
You do.
100% right on that.
Well,
You know.
this was about 10 years ago. I was a school governor for two
Hmm.
schools actually, where
Right.
my kiddie was then 5. And so I kind of, I think I didn't step back quick enough, and I got put into the governor's role, you know, the chairman, whatever it is,
Hmm.
chairing it all. And my thing was, whatever we do has to be for the benefit of the children
Right.
the most. So rather than saying, oh, I'm a this and I'm a that, but just what can we do for the benefit of the kids? Because I'm a great believer in, you know, they are our future. We
They
all still
are.
need to focus on them.
Hmm.
And there's been such a lot of bad stuff recently, like with the pandemic, which if you imagine as a kid or as a teenager, so our daughter Charlotte was a teen doing a GCSEs through pandemic. I mean, it's bad enough just being a teenager when
It
things are
is.
normal, right? But
Yeah.
then dealing with seeing adults scared and the horrible news, and you know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I'm sure it's had an impact across the globe on many teens
Hmm.
and kids. And anything we can do to help them sort of break out of that, if it's impacted
Hmm.
them, we should. And yeah, I just think that kids should just be allowed to fly in inverted commas, you know what I mean, and follow their dreams, and just don't hold them back with
Yep.
preconceptions about things, you know.
So many
So
kids here now are homeschooled because of what happened with the pandemic, and
yeah,
also bomb threats, shootings, and you
yeah,
know,
awful.
they're not going to get that full, you know, experience at home. You got to be
No,
with other
no,
children, you know?
I couldn't agree more. Do you know, I could not agree more. And I think that
Yeah.
there is a lot of merit in the organization and the structure that school gives you, because as a
Hmm.
parent, you can't, well, to be fair, I tried, but I realized you cannot lay that down at home.
Nope.
It has to be, they're with their peers, they can
Right.
exchange ideas with their peers, they can talk to teachers, they're not parents, so they listen more. But
Exactly.
at home, I tried in the first few days of pandemic, say, right, you know, up at 9, break, lunchtime, da-di-da. Within 2 days, it's forget it. There's no way. And so well, just, you know, trying to, and what you realise, there's a guy on telly who features quite a lot. He's a headmaster and he's involved with teaching unions or whatever, and he's absolutely brilliant. And as he said, don't ever try and be a teacher at home.
Right.
Kids, let us be the teachers.
Yeah.
You be a parent. And really, parenting is more guiding,
Right.
supporting, advising, and sort of steering down the path which is a sort of path of light, as it were, where it's okay to go and follow your dreams, sort of thing. So I learned very quickly that I think the best place for a child is to learn at school, if possible. And if it's a good school, even better, obviously. But you know, you see so many cases of kids that they haven't done well at school, but they absolutely fly in business or in music or whatever, and that's great. And and sometimes it's worth. There's one thing I do think is really important. It's important to learn how to fail.
Yep.
To roll with the punches, get up, dust yourself down, and go for it.
I agree.
That's really important. Just a bit of resilience, and I think that's a little bit lacking recently.
Yeah. The only bad thing about sometimes school is the bullying. That's so bad.
Do you know what? Do you know what?
It's so bad here.
I can't stand.
I hate that. You know?
Yeah. No. I'm with you on that.
And we've all been bullied at some time in our life, you know?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
You know, I had long hair. I hung out with the well, this was after the hippies. We called ourselves freaks, but you know, we were the rockers. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we had greasers. You know, it was like the last year of greasers. Yeah, they had switchblades, you know. And, and they always would bump us in the hallway, and there was 3 of them against 1 of us, and you know, that went on and on and on. You know, stuff like that.
That's not good, is it? But you're right. You know, I had that a bit at school.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of the cool kids. You know, I liked ABBA. They didn't like the fact I liked ABBA then. Now everyone loves ABBA, and I still love ABBA. So there you go. But actually, Tripwire that's a good segue into Tripwire, because Tripwire is all, in a way, it's all about that, where someone is trying to exert influence and power over you unfairly.
Exactly.
And it's really about these people. After a while in your head, it just makes you flip. You think they're just crazy, these people. And you lose total respect for them, and sort of thing. So Tripwire is a little bit along those lines, where you put up with so much, and then after a point you think, I'm not putting this up with this anymore.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. You're right. Shouldn't be allowed.
Well, Nemesis, which is the final track on the album, that's you singing.
Yeah.
Alone. It spotlights your great voice. It's a beautiful track. And if top 40 music was only like it used to be, this would be a hit. That's what I think. This would be the hit. Nemesis would be a hit. Well, Glow could be a hit too. But your voice is so good on this song.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, and I thought long and hard about the vocal on it. And what I mean by that is who should be singing it. And the reason I sang it is partly because, believe it or not, this track wasn't going to appear on the album.
Really?
I was planning potentially a solo album, so another solo album. That plan's on ice. But I wrote the song, and I just think, and it sounds awful saying this, but it sounds like, I think it's probably one of the best things I've written. And I just feel I felt that it should go on a Cairo album. But I really love singing it, and it's in the right key and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And actually, and some people still prefer the male vocal to the female vocal. We're all different. So I thought, you know what, if we just have a few, because on Say, the male vocal dominates a bit more, I'd say. And the idea was to have a bit more balance.
Right.
On the album, have more female vocals with a few male vocals, because then actually live, it means you get a nice mix too.
Yeah.
So no, but thank you very much. I loved singing that one. And again, a little bit, the theme of that one is about the fact that kind of we are our own worst enemies as individuals and as a human race. Right? It's that, you know, and that there are lots of people out there finger pointing at others and blaming others for this, that, and the other, and saying you should do this and you should do that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what we should probably do is look in the mirror first and really think, you know, what can we do to make things better? Whether it's at that close individual level, like I said earlier, with people that need help or anything, you know, running for charity or whatever it is, something like that. Or at a global level, just, you know, switch the lights off more and just thinking of the green gases thing. But again, I'm not trying to be, what do they call it? Catastrophizing. When people catastrophize, I'm not trying to do that either. I think it's just, as a band, we're saying it's just about just thinking about things more. Not it's a small. I tell you, if you get a lot of people making small improvements,
Right.
that would do it. That would
Sure.
do it, in my view. It doesn't have to be too dramatic, says he. And as I say, we don't want people to be put off with the thought we're catastrophizing things, because we're not trying to do that. It's just really about saying, well, where anything should start is with yourself, right? At a small level or a global level, just think about what we're doing individually, and we all sometimes forget and get into habits, and that's okay. Don't beat yourselves up either. It's that, isn't it? So yeah, so that's kind of what Nemesis is about. And then the cover for Nemesis obviously relates to the title track, and that was just an idea I had one day, just here, and I was thinking about, would it be partly because my bonds is a bit like the world, right? And yeah, more fool me, unfortunately.
Let me see. We're right about right there.
yeah, you're about here. Right? Anyway, it keeps moving. So anyway, you're there here now. But I just thought about this. I discussed it with Paul Tippett, who's a graphic design guy, and he's
excellent.
Brilliant, as you know. Frosted Bike, loads of different bands, and discussed it with Paul. And so we've got a loo next door, and I did a selfie with my hands like this. I said, I don't want my face to be shown, right? I'm not interested in my face here. It's about the idea of the human being and the blood or something.
Right.
And so Paul did a thing, as he does in his graphics. It came back, and I thought, I really like that. I said to Paul, what do you think? He said, I love the idea, Rob. So long story short, I said, right, can you just make it go, turn it into the world in red and make it look like blood? And he said, no, I can't. Why not? He said, because what you have to do is pour theatre blood over your bonds. So I'm shattering all the illusions now, but that's exactly what I had to do. I've got a good friend, Hoss, who's a well-known photographer guy, and his wife had to pour this stuff over my head while I had the hands over, and I'd take photographs. And then Paul then did his thing with it, right? So that's how that was done at the end of the day. But yeah, the idea was really connecting ourselves with what we're doing to the planet and just being a bit more considerate.
Yeah, it's a great album cover.
I think thank you very much. I think in the words of Save the Earth, would we treat our mother like this?
Right. Yeah, sure. I'm so disgusted about the oceans, man. All that plastic and garbage. You see what's happening in Florida with the seaweed now and the red tide? It's horrible.
Awful. It's awful. We got
thousands of dead fish everywhere on the beach. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and we are crazy because we're doing it to our own planet.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is support initiatives where they're trying to improve this kind of situation, and lend our names to it, lend activity to it, put a bit of money in, 5 or 10 a year, whatever. But try and make us, just with small changes, just make a bit of a difference, kind of thing. And I just think of Mother Earth, and of course, as obviously our mum's passed away in 2020, and you just sort of think, that Mother Earth is what gives us succor, right? And why would we treat her so badly?
I don't know.
So anyway,
politicians should be like you. I mean, you got all the right messages, but I think you're too honest, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I couldn't be a politician. I'll take that as a compliment. Trust me, that's a real compliment. And it's actually another good segue into Asleep at the Wheel. You've done this before, mate. I tell you, Asleep at the Wheel is exactly about leadership and lack of. Now, we've seen some brilliant leaders like Jacinda Ardern, I think it is, in New Zealand. I think she's one of the best leaders, as an example, that's been out there recently. Empathetic, listens to her people, does the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know the politics in New Zealand. All I know is from afar that she looks great as a leader. There are other leaders who should remain nameless, who are more interested in themselves and power, what leadership can bring them. They disappear into themselves. As they become leaders, they then sort of, rather than thinking of the people that put them into this chair, they start to disappear into themselves and start this self-belief thing.
Exactly.
And this is a common trait, by the way. If you read a few books, common trait in leaders, they start to believe in what they think so much, they forget about the people they're leaving behind.
That's right.
And so Asleep at the Wheel is quite a sort of a tough song about that, in a way. It's really about these people that sit up on their chairs in the ivory towers and forget the people that actually gave them the power as the people with the power.
That's right.
so that can vote them in, vote them out, and do whatever. And as again, it comes back to that crowd thing, a bit like crowdfunding, but crowd anything is the crowd is more powerful than the individual.
That's right.
And if you get people all thinking on the right lines, then it makes a big difference. So
Sure.
yes, I think I couldn't be a politician. I don't know how they swerve questions, how they do, how they can answer in such a slippery way. It's a real technique, and one which I just no, you're right, I couldn't do it. Thanks.
Well, if they
But I take my hats off. Oh, sorry, Ray. I take my hats off to some of them because
Sure.
some of them are genuine, right? And they
Right.
do, they try to make a positive difference. So it's not that all of them are like that. We have to be fair here. Not all of them are like that. There's some great politicians that are straight talking, are genuine, and really want to make a positive difference to the world. So there you go.
They just need to be honest, let it all hang out, whatever happens, happens. Let them be honest,
To be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. Look what's happening in France and Israel right now. Wow. All the protests and everything going on.
I mean, yeah, the French are revolting, as they say. And it's just, you're right. You're right.
There's so much you can take,
Well, no, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's a little bit of the tripwire thing again, where there's only so much you can take and then you want to do something about it, sort of thing.
Exactly. I want to mention the artwork, Paul Tippett. He's done albums from Uriah Heep, Inglorious, Europe. And I guess he had help with Andrew Wildman.
Yeah.
Who's done Marvel Comics, the Transformers, X-Men. Yeah. He also did, I think they also did Galahad, the band Out Galahad. I just had Stuart Nicholson on from Galahad recently.
I saw that. Yeah.
He's a good guy too.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Stuart's brilliant. So yes, Paul is, Paul, I've known Paul for years now, and he just has that kind of mind that he can work with you on stuff and come up with ideas and the way things look. And it gives it a certain flavor and a feel. And what I really like about Paul is he listens to you as the artist in terms of what you're after.
Right.
And it's a great collaboration Paul and I get on famously, and it's a great collaboration between me and him in terms of that stuff. And then the artwork inside the album was actually taken from photographs taken by Richard Eccleston, who's a very well-known rock photographer. He's done Status Quo and lots of other bands. And what Paul did with that was brilliant, giving it. What I said to Paul is, I just want this album to be red, white, and black. I just wanted to have that vibe.
Sure.
A bit like Sin City, which I love, that kind of that vibe. Because Cairo was the Say album was very much black and white, and it was meant to be. And so we've kind of added in red now. I don't know where we'll go the next album, which is almost completed in terms of being written, but I don't know where we'll go with that. But in terms of this album, that was the vibe. And I just think it just works. I think it's more punchy. Rather than being too colourful and too out there and too many images on the cover and stuff. So no, thank you very much. And Andrew, I've known for years. He also does storyboards for Doctor Who and for the recent Luther film that was out on Netflix. He did storyboards for that. Andrew is a multi-talented artist. I've known him since I was 4. And he's just brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. So he's been like an advisor. So what I like about Andrew, because he's known me so long, he can be ruthlessly honest about everything, whether it's the music or the art or anything, and he's great for that. Sometimes you need a sounding board so that you don't disappear up your own backside with stuff. So yeah, no, he's great. He's great.
So how are you going to beat the next album, the artwork? You got to beat this album now. It's going to be tough, huh?
I think we need to get Ray's face on the cover and pour maybe green over it. I don't know, green slime. I don't know. But anyway, we need to think about getting you on the front cover, Ray.
No, we'll have your head and we'll put the map on it.
Yeah. Exactly. Easily done.
It'll be spinning. It'll be spinning on an axis.
Spinning around. On
an axis.
No, so I mean, I had some downtime at the end of last year, and so I've been writing some stuff.
Good.
And it's, in fact, I've got someone coming in tonight to do a bit of a go on it, and on one of the songs, which will probably be the first single, and it might well be released later this year. But I'm not giving it exclusive because I don't know yet, Ray. I'm sorry. But I can tell you we have got a single coming out on the 5th of May.
Okay.
But I'm not telling you which one it is. It is off Nemesis, but it is as yet to be revealed.
Right.
So that's great. But we're already thinking ahead to releasing a single from album 3 before it's released, if that makes sense. Because we've already booked John to record it in January, February of next year.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's almost fully written. There's like, we're only kind of, I'm looking at the track titles here. We're only one track away from it being there. And I've sort of said to the band, can we just, what I want is a dirty guitar riff from James, who's working on it at the moment. And then for us as a band to write something in the rehearsal studio and just like reel something up from a riff of James. So, but it needs to be the dirtiest riff, on the planet type riff. We'll see what he comes up with. But it should be good. But I have to say, I want to take my hat off to the band because, like I say, Paul is a great bass player.
Yeah.
As you say, Sarah's got great vocals. We've discussed Sarah. But Paul is a great bass player and a fantastic support. He's a lot more involved with the band than people realise. He gets involved with all the gigs management as well. And all this stuff's really important. It really is. People's going. So I want to shout out to Paul. And then James is giving a shout out to as a fantastic guitarist. Then Graham is drummer extraordinaire. And again, I've seen his drumming just get sort of better and better and more mature as time's gone on. And again, just working on Nemesis, I had this, what I do is I program drums into Cubase using Superior Drummer. And then I sort of suggest the idea to Graham and he then lifts it. And with Nemesis, he came up with some ideas, which was brilliant, and so Graham and I work really closely together on the drums as well. And he's a brilliant drummer, and live, he's just a joy. To be honest, you could watch Graham just drum and not have us playing music.
Right.
He's so energetic, and his hair's all over the place, and he's just brilliant. He's got hair, by the way. Yeah. He's just brilliant. Graham is brilliant to watch, and he's an absolute star. And we actually, he owns a rehearsal studios just up the road, about 25-30 minutes, and all the white rooms, and so that's where we rehearse for gigs as well as work on stuff. And Graham's a total star, and again, I just think that a bit like James, I think that he's a star in the making as more people realise how good his drumming is. I mean, he's already drumming other bands like Grace and Fire and Paradox Twin, and he helped out John with the Lonely Robot gig recently in Holland, and actually he plays keyboards. He's playing keyboards on that one, so he's multi-talented, is Graham. But that's enough. Otherwise, if he hears this, he won't be able to get out of the room, right? His head will be like this. Can't get out of the room, right? No, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to surround myself with some fantastic people, and we as a band work well together. It's great. The chemistry is fantastic. So
I agree. I definitely agree. I just want to mention before this album, the album "Say" was also a great album, and I love that album as well.
Thank you.
Say, the official video, which is out there, very catchy tune, could be a top 40 track as well. Nothing to Prove. I think there was a live version of that, which what I saw. Great voice, spacey track. I love the blend of voices. It's a very hip tune as well.
Nothing to Prove is Say is a real crowd pleaser. Actually, people love that. We tend to leave that close to the end. And then it's easy to like. So even if people haven't heard us, so it's easy to like. But Nothing to Prove tends to be, it might not be going forward, but tends to be the gig finisher because you've got it's pretty epic at the end, and it's one of our, being honest, as a band, it's one of our favorite tunes. We love playing it, and you've got everyone is showing off their own talents.
Right.
You got little keyboardy bits. You've then got guitar solo and the bit with the bass and the drums close to the end. The instrumental is fantastic. I mean, what Sarah and I did last gig, which was only a few weeks ago in Starport, the Fusion 4, is we just disappear off stage and let the two guitarists, the plank spankers, as I call them, and the drums guy, Graham, do their thing. And it's just great. It's just great to watch. And so it's quite a nice dynamic visually as well when you're watching Nothing to Prove live. But yeah, it's one of our favourites, and it's got epic bass pedals, sub pedals on it as well, which I love. So yeah, no, thank you very much. It is. We're really pleased. The reaction to Cairo, the Say album was really unexpected because obviously I formed the band in February 16. I then announced the band in August 16, and then the album came out in October 16, and then we actually won Best Newcomer in March 17.
Yes.
And that was honestly, it was like, what? We really weren't expecting it because the album hadn't been out that long,
Right.
So it's like all these other albums have been out quite a while. I thought they'd have a little bit more behind them, as it were. But we were just absolutely delighted to have won that. That's a long time ago now. March 17th. It doesn't feel that long, funny enough, but it was. So we just need to get some great albums out there and hopefully get the recognition. At the end of the day, that's for you to give it 5 stars, as you did earlier, Ray, is so complimentary, and we really appreciate it. And we just want people to love the music and get the recognition for that. You know, it's
exactly
simple as that, really. So
fingers
crossed.
I've got to give special kudos to somebody here, Miss Carrie Dawn. Hero. What a beautiful song that is. Oh my gosh. Do you want to explain who Miss Carrie Dawn is?
Not really. I will explain all. So right, first I'll just talk about the song Hero, and then I'll explain about Carrie Dawn.
Okay.
The Hero, oh blimey. So Hero goes back to song that was on my first ever album called Behind the Orchard Tree.
Right.
And that was done in Linford Manor Studios in September 2001. And that was actually a trigger behind Touchstone. So Touchstone was formed out of that album. The word Touchstone from that album. And there's a song called Hero. It has a drum machine on it. And it's about loving someone and being their hero, effectively. It sounds really awful when you say it like that, but it works. And it's a little bit Elton Johnny, I suggest. It's a bit Elton Johnny. It's a little bit like that. Almost Disney, anyway. Almost, Ray, almost. Don't forget your Disney badge yet. You have to keep hearing it. But anyway, what happened was I have 3 beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughters. So I have to mention all 3, you realise.
Right.
So my eldest is Carrie Dawn Cottingham. My middle is Sally Joanne Cottingham. And teen is Charlotte Grace Cottingham. And they all 3 of them have beautiful voices. They're very different voices, actually.
That's amazing.
They all have lovely voices.
Yeah.
So Carrie's is actually a bit more Disney, thinking about it. She'd love that. If you say Carrie's voice is like Disney princess, she will be off to Florida on a plane to give you a hug, I tell you. And then Sally's is more indie rock. And then Charlotte's is pop. It's really interesting. You put the 3 voices together, though, it works.
Why does.
Is it the family work? Like the Osmond Partridge Family. It just works. Anyway, it works. Coming back to Carrie Dawn, that track, Hero, is her favourite track off that original album. And when I said to her, I'm redoing it with Back Behind the Orchard Tree, because I just wanted to give it a bit more production. I always thought the song's good, but we did it in a week in an analog studio. So it was best endeavours. But so I'd learned a lot more over the time. So produced this album in 2019. And then I said to Carrie Dawn, I'll sing on it generally, backing vocals. I said, would you like to sing the lead vocal with an orchestral kind of backing? She was well up for it. And she does have, thank you very much, she does have a beautiful voice.
She does.
Has to be said. And I keep saying to her, she needs to get out of the bedroom and the hairbrush and get onto the stage.
Yeah, exactly. All 3 of them, maybe.
It could be a thing, couldn't it? Cottingham Sisters.
Why don't you produce an album with all 3 of them and you?
Shall I tell you why? Because it'd be an absolute nightmare. Next question? No. It probably wouldn't be. Maybe one day.
I know the feeling.
When I get older and greyer and have more time on it, when it doesn't matter if I go older and greyer, then maybe it's worth doing.
I've got a daughter and I've got granddaughters, so I'm there with you.
And actually, the other thing, to be fair to Kerry, is so I have my first grandson. He's now 15 months-ish. So Kerry's
aren't they great?
Son Luca. Brilliant, aren't they? They're brilliant. So Kerry's probably a little bit busy at the moment because she's a working mum. Yeah. But if she sees this, I should say when, because I'm going to let her see it. She'll be knocking on my door saying, "Come on, Dad, let's do something else." But she'll say, "Don't worry about Sally and Charlotte. Just get me." And then I say, "No. Ray said Cottingham Sisters. It's all or nothing."
That's right. I think so. And tell her that she should be in the next Frozen movie.
Oh, she'd love that. She absolutely loves that. I'll tell you. Yeah. You're making her day for a week. I'll tell you.
Back Behind the Orchard Tree has got a great theme. I guess the central theme is never forgetting losing the child within. and it's so important and such a beautiful concept. Everybody needs to buy that album. You redid that
Yeah,
album and
yeah.
it's remastered and
I re-recorded everything. So
that's
I didn't get
brilliant.
I've got the old tapes in the garage, but I didn't do anything with the old tapes. I literally re-recorded everything. So I did it here in my home studio
It's
mainly,
brilliant. Yeah,
including the drums using Superior Drummer. And and then John very kindly put his fantastic magical guitar
yeah,
all over it. And it was really me and John working on it together. And we worked so well together. We in some way we're very different characters, but musically we're totally simpatico. And what I love about John is, again, I could give him some ideas as to, well, it kind of went like this, John, and he respects it. Then he says, well, can I also add this? And you go, let's have a listen. You go, wow, yeah, you can add that all day long.
very
That's
cool.
fantastic.
Very
And
cool.
he really respected the sort of vibe of the album. And one thing I do love on that album is, so I did a brand new track just to ring the changes, called Out of Time. Thankfully it wasn't out of time, it was in time. But he then did this almost Van Halen-esque guitar solo. And John's so humble. He's at his desk, a bit like me being at this desk. And he
Yeah.
just goes, diddly 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 da, I don't like that. Diddly 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 da, diddly 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 da. And he just let rip, and he did this, what you hear on the album. And he just looked at me and said, is that all right? And being a Brit, I just said, that wasn't too bad, John. We'll take
Yeah, you know, you guys.
we'll take that. We'll take
Give
that.
yourself
Yeah,
some credit, man.
yeah, yeah. Behind the scenes, I'm going, yeah, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, exactly. That's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. I just want to mention John Mitchell. He's an Irish musician. He's a record producer. The Lonely Robot. That's one of his. He actually toured with Martin Barr, and he sang lead vocals and with Martin as well.
John, yeah. I mean, I've known John now for a long time, because in fact is the story. I don't know how long you got, Ray, but the story on this one is that I bumped into John the first time I looked at Outhouse Studios back in 2006, because we'd formed Touchstone. We wanted to do an album. Use a studio for our first EP, Mad Hatters.
Right.
And I said to Adam Hodgson at the time, I said, do you know what? This Kino album is brilliant. Picture, right? Brilliant. That Kino album. And I said, whoever recorded that, they should be recording our album. And then I went into our studios, but I didn't realize it was John's studio. Bumped into John, known him since then, and he's just been a brilliant support. But there's a lot he's good at, right? I mean, he's good at so much.
Right.
But I think the thing with John is his ear. His ear is amazing. When he mixes something, he puts the cans on. So what we tend to do when we mix together is he mixes the bulk of it. He puts the cans on. He's mixing away, and I'm just doing something on a laptop or whatever. And he chucks the cans on the desk and says, right, Cotter's called me, over to you. So thanks very much. And I listen to it. And I probably, on some songs, I might find 3 or 4 or 5 things, maybe.
Yeah.
But on others, it's like, oh, he's just hit the nail on the head. And in fact, the one where it hit the nail on the head was, let me get this right, it was Nemesis. Because, and in fact, I'll be honest, I broke a tear on that one when I listened to the first mix, because some of it does reflect back to the parents always being there in some way, and I just said to John, that is sublime. And as a, by the way, that's also his favorite track off the album, interestingly enough. So yeah, it was just he's such a talent. He's a brilliant guitarist, a brilliant producer. He can play keyboards, he can play bass. He's got a fantastic ear, and he's a lovely bloke with it. Actually, he's a big softy.
Yeah.
Behind the facade, as it were. But no, he's a big softy. And I saw him only about 10 days ago, and he had his cat on the lap and chatting away. He's a lovely guy, and he's always been really supportive with anything I've been involved with. And I can't shout his praises enough, really. John is a lovely chap, but for me it's his ear for music.
Yeah. Sure.
And he hears music in color, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And the way he can just pick up on I mean, I've sent stuff to him before
Hmm.
to say this is the demo of the album. So I do it all as a demo, send it to him.
Right.
I can guarantee he's not listened to it. I
Right.
can guarantee it
Yep.
because actually he doesn't need to,
Hmm.
because he so quickly picks up on the music, he picks up on the vibe, picks up on the notes, and actually because he's going to hear it a lot during the recording and during the mixing, by
Yeah.
the time he gets the mix, he's heard it a lot of times anyway, you know.
Yeah.
So it's good for me. A demo is good as a reference point, actually. So if there's certain nuances, we're thinking, how's it supposed to go again? I've got the demo there, good for
Yep.
me to listen to. But no, I agree. He's an absolute smasher, and he deserves, you know, he is successful, but he deserves
Hmm.
as much success as he can possibly get on the planet.
You know, I really enjoyed listening to all the music. You know, that's what I'm good at. You know, if you give me a book, you want me to promote a book, I read the book.
Yeah.
If you give me the album, I'll listen to everything you've ever recorded. That's the fun part about my job, because I love music and I love to listen to the music, and I get it for free, you know.
You're lucky, and you're lucky.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, right? Now you tell me.
I get it
No, I'm
for
joking.
free.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. But that's great. And just as you need us in that way, we need you, right? And that's what's lovely. It's about the relationship.
Sure.
It's I absolutely I found my love again back for music, having lost mum, and it took a few months, but
Yeah.
I am even more productive, as it were, and creative now than
I
I've ever
I
been.
can see that.
It's just incredible, and I sometimes, you sometimes have your dark moments where you think, oh, is it worth it? And all that stuff.
Right.
But then like playing the Stay Up gig and being on stage and getting the response you get,
Yep.
and just feeding back off the band and just
Hmm.
having fun with the band. And
Exactly.
it's like, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And Andy said to me a long time ago, so Andy Wildman is a great thinker as well as a creative artist. And he said, Rob, he said, he said, you don't do this for commercial reasons. He said,
That's
you do
right.
it for, he said, you do it for your soul. It was like, yeah, mic drop, back of the neck. He's got it, then
Yeah.
it does feed the soul, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I can't thank you enough, Ray, for doing this interview and for promoting all the bands that you do, and for listening, enjoying it, and enthusing, and especially for the fantastic 5 stars. That was unexpected. So no, thank you very much for all you do. It's really
Sure.
appreciated by me and all the musicians really around that you do it for. It's great. Thank you.
And I love doing what I do. You know, I don't get paid. I don't make any money, but
No?
it's the same thing. I do it for the love of music and
Yeah,
to keep
yeah,
good music alive, you know. Promote
fantastic.
good music. That's what it's all about. You
Yeah,
know,
brilliant.
I listen to all your the Touchstone stuff, and Touchstone was a great band.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
yeah,
were great, but
yeah,
I like the progression from Touchstone to this album. I can
yeah,
see
yeah,
the growing and how
yeah.
deep, you know, and it all kind of
Absolutely,
stemmed
yeah.
from Touchstone. Um, Kim, do you still talk to Kim?
I haven't spoken to Kim for ages. She's not been well
Really?
recently, I'm afraid. So I haven't spoken to Kim for ages.
Yeah.
But no, Kim and I always got on famously. I mean, when you look at Touchstone, their last album or our last album then was 2013. So it's been a
Right.
while. And But I think you're right. I think as a musician, you kind of grow through the experiences, and I'm always grateful for the experience that we as a band had in Touchstone. It sort of has given me the foundations, as it were, to be doing what we're doing in Cairo,
Exactly. Yeah.
and the experience, and I listen to the Touchstone stuff now and again,
Hmm.
and think, wow, that was great. What we did at the time was
You sure
great.
did.
And I'm still in touch with Adam, though, Adam Hodgson. I'm still in touch with Adam on various things. So yeah, we still talk, which is great.
You know what was interesting was your cover of Mad World. I always did like that
Oh yeah,
song, and I like the
yeah,
movie. But you
yeah.
guys did a good version of that. That's a tough song to do.
It is, and what was nice is we gave it some balls, and I love that. I love Tears for Fears, by the way, massive fan. And we gave it some balls, and of course that features John doing a guitar solo, because we did that live, and he did a guitar solo on it, and we just let rip, and
Yeah.
it's just lovely to have done that with it. But no, thank you very much. That was great fun. We enjoyed that a lot, heck of a lot.
There's a photo out there I love. It's you, Chris Squire, and Steve Hackett.
Ah,
Are you good friends with all
yes.
those? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
what
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was from, that will always stay there, that photo, because that was after Steve kindly put down a guitar solo on Captain Blue. So that was a solo album that I brought out July 2012, and Gary is then drummer, drummed on Captain Blue album.
Hmm.
And Steve very kindly agreed to do a solo on it, which was, as ever with Steve, he didn't just do a fantastic solo, he did additional bits, which I didn't even ask for, you know. And he's so kind. He and Joe, his wife, are just so, so kind and lovely, genuine people. And
They are.
so I just thought, well, it'd be nice to take a bit of story here. It'd be nice to take Steve out for a bite to eat, say thank you.
Hmm.
So I got in touch with Stephen Jones. If you have a favourite restaurant close to where you live, yes, we do, and they told us what it was. So I phoned up the restaurant and said who it was for, and I said, "Oh, just table for four, please." No worries. So I went along to this restaurant on the subject evening, and I rocked up, and the owner said, "Oh, it's over here, Mr. Cottingham, whatever." I said, "Oh, it's over here." So, "Oh, thank you very much." I said, "No, wait a minute. That's a table for six. That can't be right." I said, "I booked a table for four." He said, "No, no, no." He said, "Mr. Hackett said it's a table for six." So I said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. You know, no worries. You know, no worries." Sat down, and then Steve and Joe rocked up with Chris Squire and Scotty, his wife, and said to me, "Rob, I thought you might like to meet Chris." And Chris, as you know, Chris was a bear hug. He's a
He's
big
a big
guy,
guy.
big
Yeah.
hands, big bear hug, and we just had the best night. We just had the best night, and we all miss Chris, of course, since he's
Yeah,
gone. But it was just an amazing night, and it's one of those sort of pinch yourself moments to a certain extent. And so
yeah.
yeah, so I value that, and
That's cool.
yeah, just nice to remember it, and
Yeah.
and remember Chris as well, Chris and Scotty at the time. So yeah, no, it was a lovely evening, and that's what that stemmed from. Just Steve very kindly putting a solo down on Captain Blue. So yeah,
I
that's the story.
interviewed Chris during Squawk It, when they were together.
Yeah,
They
love
did an
it.
album together. That was a good album.
Yeah,
Very good album.
good album. Yeah, great album. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We had a good time on the phone. And Steve Hackett, he's a great guy. I mean, he'll do an interview anytime. You get a hold of him. Yeah, let's do it. And he's going on the road again right now.
He
Again.
is. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very busy, and so it's very nice because he is got kind of going to listen to the album and let
Yeah.
us know what he thinks. But so he's so kind to even do that when he's got so
Right.
much planned. But yeah, looking forward to hearing from Steve and Joe and see what they think to it. Fingers crossed that he loves it, but we'll
Oh
find
yeah.
out.
I know he will. Rob, here's your final question. And I ask everybody this question. I get some very interesting answers.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
if you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Wow, that's a stumper. Um, so
Could be
this
a
is
whole
so this is
band.
so this is about somebody that I'd love to work with, collaborate with
Yeah.
on that.
Hmm.
Or Peter Gabriel.
Good answer.
I mean, I just love his stuff. I
Me
love
too.
him. I love his values. I'm gonna be seeing him perform in June.
Hmm.
Um, I think Peter, he's always been a little bit. He's been quite eclectic actually, which I
Right.
like. And
Yeah, he
he's
is.
grown and changed in different
Yep.
directions. But he does it so well. And then you hear, the first single off his new album, and I almost listened to it with dread beforehand, thinking, "Oh my goodness, what's it going to be like?" And it was just classic Pete. It was right
Hmm.
up there. It sounded like Pete as well. And I'm a massive fan of Peter, and I would love to collaborate with Peter on anything. Um, and if he could get us a gig at the Royal Albert Hall as well, we'd do that together. That's a dreamy stuff, right? I love the Royal
Hmm.
Albert Hall. It's my favourite venues. I even like, believe it or not, Wembley Stadium. Sorry, yeah, Wembley, not Stadium. What's the other one? The other one, the smaller one. I just love the acoustics in it.
Hmm.
Brain fog. But anyway, not the great big stadium, but the other one, the
Right.
Wembley. I love that as a venue. It's a classic sort of hall, but I love the acoustics in it. But anyway, so yeah, Peter Gabriel, I think, has mastered that one. But that's a cracking question.
Good
Real cracking
answer.
question.
Good answer. Yeah, I get some strange answers sometimes. I get Paul McCartney a lot, of course, but then I get
Yeah,
Petulia Clark, remember her? She said Pink
Oh,
Floyd. She said Pink Floyd. She wanted
well,
to sing with Pink Floyd.
so well, there you go. I mean, there's so many. I have so many heroes. I mean, yeah, songwriting heroes are Elton John, Sting, ABBA.
Yeah.
To name but a few, and obviously bands are your Floyd, Yes, Genesis. But I also like, Jean-Michel Jarre and
Hmm.
Space as was then the synth band, and just Vangelis, of course,
Yep.
on the keyboardsy side. So there's so many really, and yeah, yeah, that was a really difficult question, but I went for someone that's still with us in the hope that one day
Yeah.
you never, fingers crossed.
Good answer. I was heartbroken when Jeff Beck passed away. I mean, I was
Yeah,
such a big fan of his,
yeah,
and such a pioneer of what he's
yeah,
done. Yeah, that
yeah,
was a
most
blow.
definitely. Yeah,
That was a
that was
shock.
massive, wasn't it? I mean, the
Yeah,
response was amazing around the world
it's crazy.
when Jeff passed away. That was amazing, the
Yeah.
response at times.
All right. So what's next for Rob Cottingham and Cairo? What's the very next thing? Are you working on the next album? You're
Yeah,
playing with.
so
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So the next album's almost written. I say we're one track left
Really?
to,
That was quick.
yeah, well, yeah, because I had what I call downtime at
Yeah.
the end of last year, and
Right.
so
That's
I'm always
true.
busy. I'm always busy. So
Right.
for me, being busy was writing, music writing, and I've already sent a lot of it over to the band, and they're loving it. And so we're going to be recording a single off the new album soon, as a separate recording of a potential single later in the year. And then the actual album itself will be recorded in January, February next year.
Okay.
So there's a lot of work to do between now and then, which is kind of building up the parts for the band members, building up the music, sort of lifting it. Because what tends to happen is I tend to write something on Cubase Pro with drums, with bass, with everything to a certain extent, and then pass it across the band, and then we lift it and we make it a band song, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But having said that, some of the riffs that James like Asleep at the Wheel, that was James's riff.
Oh,
Fantastic. And it's like, yeah, and then he and I worked really hard on the structure to give it
right.
structure, because it was almost structureless, but sometimes it's a good place to start, because
Hmm.
without a structure, just a fantastic riff. So yeah, so really an answer to your question is, the next thing for me actually in the band is to record a single from the next album,
Hmm.
as well as promote our existing album,
Yep.
Nemesis, is going to come out 5th of May on a UK tour. So that would be
Yes.
brilliant. But I think that's the reason I'm keen to get on with album 3 is we had such a gap between album 1 and album 2. And yes, I didn't see a global pandemic coming, no one did. Yes, I didn't see Trustonomics, lack of investment happen. That's kind of knocked it back 3.5 years. So whilst we are in a good way and whilst momentum's going, let's get another one going. And
Yep.
when that will be released, who knows? Because again, it's about which label and but potentially existing label and all that. There's lots of those discussions have to go on. But for now, the main thing is let's get this single recorded soon, ready to release it in the latter
Okay.
part of the year.
Any chance of U.S. states in the future?
I'll tell you, I would love it. I'll tell you what
Mhm.
I'd love. What I'd love is that we do a UK tour this year.
Right.
I'd love to do a European tour in 24, and
Okay.
maybe US tour in 25, if not
Great.
sooner.
That'd be
But
awesome.
Ray, if you can get us on Cruise the Edge or
Exactly.
any of those, keep pushing and saying, get Cairo on, we'll be over there.
Well,
Honestly, we'd love it.
Steve's on Cruise to the Edge most of the time, right?
He is.
Steve Hackett. Yeah, I'm sure he
Yeah.
can get you on that somehow.
Oh, shall I have a word?
Yeah.
Steve, apart from doing solos and giving us a review, can you get us on Cruise the Edge?
He should.
It's a bit
Yeah, he should.
cheeky.
He should be able to help you out on
Cheeky.
that.
You never know. You never know. You never know. But yeah, no, we would like, honestly, one of the best times I had was playing Rosfest in
Right,
Philadelphia
right.
back in
Buzzfest.
2009, I
Yeah.
think it was,
Yep.
with Touchstone, and it was. And we had a Sunday morning slot, and it was just brilliant. We sold all
Yeah.
our merch, and the response was amazing. We thought Sunday morning, being Brits, we thought that's not a very good slot, is it? It was rammed. It was rammed. It was for the new bands, and it was just brilliant. So no, we oh, I love you guys. We love you guys. We want to get over there. It's in plan,
Hmm.
but it's not yet properly in plan. So it's on
Okay.
strategy, but not in plan. If that makes sense. We'd love to, Ray. So do promote our name. I know you will. Thank
We
you
will.
very much. But we'd love to play over the pond.
That'll be wonderful,
Love
man.
to.
I'd love to see
Oh, I would
that.
love to. Love to.
I want to say a
Oh,
quick
honestly,
special thanks to Billy James of Glass Onion PR for arranging this interview with Rob Cottingham.
yeah.
I've known
Thank
Billy
you.
now for, I don't know, 11, 12 years. He's a great guy, great PR
Brilliant.
guy.
It's brilliant. Brilliant
You
guy.
can pre-order the new album by Cairo, Nemesis, at Cherry Red Records, www.cherryred.co.uk. You can go there. It'll be on Amazon as well. I think I saw it
Yeah. It's
advertised
on
on Amazon.
all.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on all the global platforms, and if a cherry red
Yep.
is too difficult, if you go into our website,
Okay.
cairorocks.com, there's a link to
Okay.
pre-order. So as another
Probably,
hand,
probably the easiest way. www.cairorocks.com. That's probably the
perfect,
easiest way to get it. And of
perfect.
course, you guys are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You guys are everywhere. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we need to be a bit more everywhere, and working on that with Crystal Spotlight. They're helping us with all that
Okay.
social media content because despite me being very fresh-faced, I'm quite long in tooth, so
Yep.
I'm not as close to all that social media stuff. But no, Crystal Spotlight,
You
they're
can't
helping with
do it
all that
all,
stuff.
you know? You can't do it all. It's too hard. It's too much
You
out
can't
there
do it,
nowadays.
Ray. You can't do it all.
No, you can't.
That's a great team effort, to be honest. It's a great
Yeah.
team effort.
Rob, thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. It's a real pleasure. I hope to maybe see you in person one day when you come to the US, or maybe
Oh,
a holiday when you come to Florida with all the other Brits.
yeah. Well, Ray, I'd love to meet you face to face. If you ever come over to Britain, let me know. I'll buy you a nice
Okay.
warm pint. Nice
Sounds
warm
great,
pint.
man. I'd love to
Um,
come.
but otherwise, I'll go over the pond and you can buy me a chilled pint.
Sounds good to me. And
Do it.
get to work on that singing trio of your daughters, because
Oh, the Cottingham sisters,
the
yeah. Oh,
Cottingham sisters, I think
goodness.
they're great. You
Maybe
know, that's
we should get them in to
a
support
lot of
support
talent
act. Maybe
there.
that's one. Yeah, that'd be a nightmare. But anyway.
Yeah, nice side
Thank you very much.
project
So they are
for you.
talented. A side project, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good job I'm not very busy at the moment, Ray, isn't it? Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ray. That's brilliant. Lovely to
All
meet
right.
you, and all the very best to you and yours.
Me
You take
too.
care.
Best to you and your family. All right.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
Cheers. All the best. Take
Cheers.
care. Bye now.
Bye bye.